Okay, you can hear me? Oh, wait, now the button's working? Oh. Okay, that was weird. Alright, so, hello, and I want to say congratulations. You both did excellently on the midterm, which makes me feel good because it, means that you're actually absorbing the things that I'm teaching, which is kind of, the whole point of teaching. Okay, so now we're gonna, let me, can you hear me now? Okay. So I just wanted to say congratulations. You both did very well on your midterms, and I have full faith and confidence that the next 4 classes are going to be even more fun. Okay. So over the last few weeks, we've been looking at command line commands from the command line. We're going to continue, but we're going to start building. Not going to be just straight off commands. It's going to be a little bit more complex. Let's dig right into it. Okay. All right. If you have your machines open. Virtual machines. Are there any other applications you can close to maybe free up a little bit more memory? Okay. Okay, well, I know that I've shut everything off, so alright, oh, wait a minute, I know what the problem is. Hold on a second. No, that's not the problem. Okay. What's totally black? Okay. Which you gotta use different words than it's and this because I can't see what you're doing. Okay. Okay, did you try like double clicking or hitting the space bar when you're in the virtual machine? Maybe the screen just darkened. Okay. Okay, let's play with this for a second. Let's see if they got this working. Okay, so that's not working great. All right. Let's go. Let's see. Maybe it'll clear itself up or something. Okay. So in your virtual machines, what I'd like you to do is use the command clear. Well, let's see. Do this and type in LSAL. And then afterwards type in clear. And what you'll see is that the screen will just, it'll just clear itself out. It just clears the terminal. It's kind of a afterthought command, but I figure it's something that at some point you're just gonna have stuff on the screen and you're just going to be like, I need to fix this, and clear. Control L will also work, and in some cases Control L will redraw the screen sometimes working, and then I'll have output from a program that's running in the background just get in my face and interrupt what I'm doing. So I hit Control L, which refreshes the terminal. So from the command line, Control L will do the same thing as clear, or at least on my machine it does. But the command clear. Okay, fine. That's way too much time on clear. Okay. Okay, so you saw me use this once. Now it's time to talk about it. When you use the command touch against a file name, what you get is you change the date, the modification date of that command to whatever it is right now. So pick a file and just pick any file in your home directory and type touch and then the file name. And what you'll see is that it'll change the modification time to now. That's great, but why would you need to use this? It helps you keep track of stuff, for lack of a better idea. Again, one of these weird one-off commands that just needs to be mentioned. When you saw me use it, what I did was I touched a file name that didn't exist, so it created it with 0 bytes. So it just created basically a record in the operating system that this file exists. It had nothing in it, so fine, whatever. There are ways, and we'll look at next week, that to create files that don't exist on the fly, and Linux is smart enough to do it anyway, just for the sake of when I was explaining how to rename things, it was easy for me to just, instead of playing with a file that I might mess up the name, whatever, I did touch and it created a blank file, and I could just rename it and so on and so forth. Okay, fine. Okay, another. I know you know it, and you can study for the final for it. Okay. Okay, you also saw me use this also. You saw me use cat. Now, cat is short for concatenate. Concatenate means to put together one after the other. The purpose of it would be to, if you had, for instance, if you had been writing 12 chapters of a book, each in a different text document, you would cat chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and then output it to finalbook.txt, and that would be all of it in together. I mean, obviously, you would use a word processor like a normal person, but that's one reason why you would do that. Same thing if you were building pieces of code and you wanted, instead of having in a bunch of different files, you wanted it in one big master file and it's all a bunch of classes and whatever, you just run it together. But that's not what we typically use cat for. So cat allows us to view the whole file at what's called standard output. That means on the command line. There's standard input, which is when you type something in at the command line. And we'll learn a little bit more about this, I think, next week. Standard output, and then there's standard error. And they're just three. Okay. Suffice it to say that there are three different command line. There's input, output, and error. Okay, and cat shows it just standard output, means it just displays it at the prompt. So if you do cat words.txt, I believe we still have that file somewhere, right, in our home directory. We have words.txt. So if you do cat words.txt, you'll see that the entire words.txt file will just be output. And if your terminal has scrolling capacity, which it should because it's 2019, you'll be able to scroll and see. Now, this is not a useful command in and of itself unless you're looking to confirm something or whatever. Usually what you would do is you would take this command and you would redirect it to something else, to another file. You would let's say you took words. Okay, let's not assume it's 500 words, but what you could do is theoretically you can cat the word file, and then for each word that that's a bad example because you wouldn't use cat for that. Cat allows us to see files on the command line from top to bottom, and you can see tac, which is the backwards of cat, does it bottom to top. So if you do tac words.txt, you'll see that it shows you the same list, except it's showing it to you from it's the last line, then the line before it, 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 until it gets all the way back to what was basically the first line in the file. So that's cat and tac for forward and backwards. Cat will become a little bit more useful next lesson. Okay, so another way to view files, if you just need, real world example. I maintain a couple of web servers, and every once in a while somebody gets infected with a virus. not a virus, whatever, some script kiddie just gets on my server and makes a mess. Okay, not a big deal until like Google starts yelling at me that my sites are being delisted and they're sending the secret police to come get me. So what I know the pattern of how these things happen. I understand it. So what I do is, if I suspect, or if I'm doing a routine maintenance, I will, and I say something doesn't feel right, and I get that feeling. I will start looking at files, and I don't have to look through every single file of everything. I could cat every file. That would be ridiculous and a ton and a waste. What I happen to know is that these scripts inject crap, and I apologize for using the word if you're unfamiliar with it, but there are much worse words that I would use for it. It injects obfuscated code in the top of files. If I just want to look at the top of files, what will happen is I will see like a whole list of files come, like I will see all the top bits of every file, and as soon as my eye catches this injected obfuscated code, I will I'll hit Control-C, which stops the operation. I will hunt down the file, the offending file, and I will take out the code. It usually takes me maybe 20 minutes for an entire server. Not terribly exciting, but if you take the server management course, we might talk about it a little bit more in depth. Anyway, so what I use is the command head, and if I do head word.txt, it'll show me the first 10 words in the list. And if we all have the same list, it's group, trot, whimsical, squeak, undesirable, swim, enormous, cagey, approval, and fluttery. Okay, right? Yes, okay. Now do head tick n 20. And I imagine that you already know what's going to happen. It's going to show you twice as many words, including quack table yam ready. Okay, I can't. I'm just cracking up. These are ridiculous words. Okay, so to inspect the top bit of a file to see if you find what you're looking for, you would use the command head. Real world example, as I explained, I will try and remember the next time. I think I might even be able to do it, and I'll take a video of finding how I use head and tail. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit more interesting. Well, okay, not really. Tail shows you the last, by default, 10 lines in a file. Okay, or you could tail n20, tail n50. Now, what do I use that for? I watch web logging. I watch the logs from the web servers in real time if I'm trying to diagnose a problem. If I'm getting an error that I can't get to my website for whatever reason, it's throwing an error or what have you, and I don't know the immediate source of what the problem is, meaning I just coded something and broke all of it. If that's not the reason, if I just somebody messages me and say, hey, I tried getting to your site and I couldn't get to it. The site that I'm thinking of, by the way, you should know, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I maintain a cooking blog. I told you about the the cookbook. So there's a cooking blog that goes along with it. Anyway, so somebody says, I can't get to your website, and I can't immediately decipher what the problem is. I will go into the log, the web server log. I will do a tail and then tick F, which keeps it open. So as the web server is writing to its log, I can see it as it's being written to the file. That's tail and forcing it open. Tail tick F, and then the file name. Actually, those should both have file names, but whatever, you're smart. And then what I'll do is then I'll I'll go to the page that's a problem, and I'll hit refresh, and then I'll go and I'll check the log, and I'll see if the error log, in this case, if the error log threw up something particularly hideous. There is a script that I wrote. Where did I write it in? Give me 5 seconds. Let me see this. Oh, I wrote it in shell. Okay. Oh, no, that's completely... Okay, no, that's too complicated. It's a bash script, but it's written backwards. We haven't gotten into bash scripting. That's lesson 9. Basically, what I do, when I was developing this, what this script does is that it looks for anybody who is trying to attack a particular file on my web server. It's called XML RPC. It's not important. And so what? Okay, hold on a second. Might as well run it. Okay, sorry, let me give, okay, so what was happening was that I was watching people who were trying to attack the website, for whatever reason. I don't care. So I wrote this script that enabled me to search through the log, and any IP address that was attacking this this particular script would immediately be blocked in the firewall. Okay, it's a cute little script. When we look at bash scripts, remind me to show you the IP blocker script, and I'll break it down for you. Okay, so head looks at the top parts of the file, the top 10 lines of the file. So if you're looking for something, it's at a glance. If you're, it helps tail a little bit more useful in checking, especially live stream things like server logs. Okay, so we looked at cat, and cat's great, except that cat shoves everything out all at once, doesn't stop until it's done, which is great, except for perhaps we're actually looking for something. And if we're looking for something, but we need to be human about it, meaning we need to analyze it and check to see, whether or not something is in there. We would use a command more. Okay, hold on a second. Did I? Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so what you would do is, well, I'm teaching it this way, and then next week I'm going to teach it completely differently. It's the same thing, but whatever. Okay, you would type more in file name, so type more words.txt, and you'll see the first screen height of words. So however tall your terminal screen is, it will fill line by line until it gets to the bottom, and now you see a little more box. Okay? You with me? Okay? Now hit the space bar. Check it out. It just paginated. It went from the first set of the screen height to the next set of the screen height. And as you keep hitting the space bar, it will continue to paginate through. Now, don't get to the end. Did you get to the end? It's 500 words. That means you smack. Okay. Now, hit the Enter key. Now you'll see that it goes one line at a time. So you have the space bar, which was a full page or full pagination, but no page, full page, and then the enter key, which ticks it up by one line at a time, right? Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to hit the, hold on a second, okay, now I want you to hit the up arrow key. What happens? Okay, how about the down arrow key? Okay, Cyrus, I'm assuming you got the same thing? Okay, so more is great. Again, if you're doing, it's a question in Linux of whether, I'm moving quickly or slowly. So moving quickly, I'm going to use the more command in order to see things and just, and hope that I catch what I'm looking for or don't catch what I'm not looking for, whatever it is, and then move on with my life. But sometimes you need to maybe scroll back a little bit or forward a little bit, and more does not let you do that. As you can see on the screen, there is another command, and the person who named it had a sense of humor. And that command is less. So what I want you to do is I want you to hit the Q key, and Q will quit out of more. Okay, you'll get back, you have a command prompt. And now I want you to type less words.txt. What you'll see is actually, okay, so you see it says word.txt, but then when you hit the space bar or the enter key or now the up arrow or the down arrow, you'll see it changes to a colon. That's just so you can enter commands, which we're not going to deal with. But the important point is that it's doing that pagination thing the way more does. But now it's also giving us this opportunity to use the up arrow and down arrow to shift up and to shift back and forth in the file, because that's just that's a better way of looking at it. More is like one direction. It's not the music group. More is one direction. You go from top to bottom. You can pagine. You do one line at a time. You can do a page at a time. But that's it. Less lets you do the same exact thing, except it takes into account that you're human and maybe you have to go back and take a look at something. Okay. In fact, there are some people, some friends of I know at least a couple of people who will use alias to substitute less for more. This is like a sitcom episode. So what they'll do in the alias files, they'll alias more equals make sure I'm doing this right. Alias more equals less. Okay, and so what that will do, that will preempt. It doesn't overwrite the more program, and it is a program. Everything we're talking about, these are all programs. They're unitaskers, so they only do one thing, but they do them essentially, as well as can be. So what this will do is, instead of the operating system executing the more command, it was preempted by the more alias to execute the less command. I don't know, or maybe I should. I probably should, but I don't. But it's something that is is perfectly doable and reasonable. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Unix and afterwards Linux was always meant to be a multi-user system, and thought and care was taken into great thought and great care was taken to ensure that users could have their privacy for their different files. The whole thing grew up in a university setting, so avoid plagiarism and things like that. But there are each file, and that's if you take a look by you can quit out of less by doing Q also. But if you do a long ls pick AL or LL, so you see that there are two columns with names. So I found out what that column with the numbers is between the permissions. It's the number of links to it, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, so you have two columns. The first column is the owner, and the second column is the group that person belongs to. So if you have, again, if you have students, teachers, faculty, staff, janitors, whatever, you have these groups of people who all could have similar permissions for running different programs, for accessing different general files and things like that. So you have individuals own their own files. You have groups that there's permission to, as a member of the group, you could access common files. And then you had everyone else. Okay, and we're gonna get very detailed into the whole nonsense of it. I hope you guys are up on your math, because we're going to be doing math and lots of it. Okay, so now as the so we have in my directory, I'm looking at files that are owned by me and some that are owned by root. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to type in, okay, I want you to type this in. Okay, sudo, and you're going to have to give your password. Sudo change the owner to root and root's main group. It doesn't matter what it is, but the colon indicates to the group as well. Words.txt. Okay. Okay, so now words.txt is owned by root, right? Okay. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. So you can. So obviously, doing it backwards is silly, but what you can do is you can change the owner of something. More importantly, if you get a program that if you have done something as root by accident, like if you created, well, no, that's a bad example. Okay. Let's see if I can. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, so we changed the ownership of words.txt to root. Let's hold off on that for now. So you can change the group of something also. just the group of something by using chgrp, but me personally, I've never done it. I also don't maintain systems where I have a lot of different users that need a lot of different permissions. Different programs run with different permissions for different reasons, but mainly I'm just the only user on the system. And if I have a file that was created by root or created by, it doesn't say anything in my console. What doesn't say anything what? If you ran the command, then do this and look at the identifiers of the owner and the group next to words.txt should be root and root, correct? Did I lose you? Okay. So it doesn't. You said it doesn't say anything in your console. You mean it just like you ran the command and it just went to a new command prompt, right? Okay, let's start from the beginning. Okay, you ran this, right? And then it asked you for your password? Okay, what does it say? Right, it just returned to a command prompt, which is Linux way of saying, I did everything should be fine. Now type in LSAL, and what does it say next to words.txt? What's the owner in the group? Cyrus, you're quiet. Are you with us? Ta-da! Okay. So root is the owner and root is the group. Root balloon. Oh, that's not fun. Oh yeah, I just see that. Okay. I didn't mean to startle his computer. I'm sorry. But I am going to need him to come back in, so we're just going to hang for a second. Take a drink if you have. I'm drinking iced tea. Yeah, I see. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay, so to change the owner, you can change the owner and a corresponding group. So, for instance, I can, on a web server, the web server program called Apache that runs the web server. Well, if you tell the web server, if you manage to tell the web server to do something chaotic on your server, if you manage to get past the security, if you manage to to infiltrate in some way, it will, if it asks to read the password file, for instance. So that would be a bad thing, especially if the password file is then sent back to the user, who can then try and attack the machine. That would be horrible. So it can only run as the user that you set in the configuration of the web server. It used to be the name of the user and group used to be nobody, and it had the minimal permissions. But now it's usually www-data. So if I create a file, if I'm doing something and what I need to do is change the ownership of the files. If I transfer things from one to whatever, if everything isn't owned by who it should be, I will enter this command. And I forgot to put up the flags. But if I add tick capital R, it will recurse. It will go down through into every single directory, and it will change everything and just make sure that everything is set the way it is supposed to be. So that's change owner. Change group again to a lesser extent groups, and we're going to look at the importance of owners and groups right now. Okay. You've seen this a little bit, and now we're going to understand it in depths that you have never known before. Okay. Change mod is change file directory permissions. I'm not sure where the mod comes from, but I don't care. Oh man. Okay, I need all eyes on this because this is an important part of understanding things, and if you do opt to take more advanced Linux class, especially server, understanding this now will be beneficial. Okay. There are 3 levels of There are 3 levels of permission. Can Cyrus, can you hear me at least? Okay. There are 3 levels of permissions, and no, that's a bad way of saying it. Oh, that's a mod stands on mode. Okay, there are 3 modes of permissions and 3 types of users, or 3 groups of users that the modes are assigned to. Okay, so if you're reading this graphic that I have had up on the screen for a couple minutes, you'll see that it's actually 3 groups of 3. The R standing for read permission, the W standing for write permission, and the X standing for execute permission. This is important with scripts for my Python people. Okay, this could be a D standing for a directory, a folder. It could be an L for a link. So now what I want you to do is do ls tick al again, and now take a look at that first column, and now you're understanding it at a new level. Okay, you're looking at now you see D, R, W, X, dashes. You see lots of stuff that's going on here. And now you're beginning to understand the permission hierarchy a little bit better. Okay, so go through. Words.txt has read write, read write not execute, or a dash for, where's my, there it is. My permissions on words dot, my permissions are read write, and read only. Okay, this is what I'm looking at next to words.txt, is that it's a normal file, so it's not a directory or a symbolic link, which would be D or L. RW dash means that the owner, who is root, can read the file and write to the file. The next group is the next triad is the group permission. So in our case, the group is also root, and that also has read and write. So anybody in the root group, and there is exactly one user in the root group, they will be able to modify this file also. Anybody that's in that group is trusted enough that this super important list of 500 random words can be modified if necessary by anybody that is in the root group. Now, the last triad is everyone else. Any other program that has a special user, any other human user, they have read permission, no write permission, and no execute permission. So I must be in, okay. So that means that it's read-only, so that if somebody had access to this file, basically, if I had a directory somewhere called common, and I put a link to this words.txt file there, anybody who could get to that common folder would see the words.txt link, and they could cat it, or whatever, they could view it as they could cat it and they could view the file, but they wouldn't be able to make modifications to it. They might be able to copy it to their own directory, so use it as a template, and so on and so forth. You understand that, okay? So how do we get to, now read, write, and execute is great, and that's great for English, but there's, for slightly more advanced Linux users, they will use numbers based on binary, or actually they use octal numbers based on binary. Okay, I don't know if you've ever been in front of binary before or not. Yes, no. Okay, so you understand the basic idea that binary is Boolean, is true or false, yes or no, on or off. It either is or it isn't. That's binary. Okay, so the first line, I'm just going to go through it, but tell me to speed up if I'm boring you to tears. The first one, all 3 bits, the binary, each of the 3 modes in the triad represent different bits. So when none of the bits are on, the file, nobody can read it, nobody can write it, and nobody can execute it. If you set that bit to 1, you would be able to execute the file, which doesn't make any sense, because in order to execute a file, you have to be able to read it. And if it doesn't have read permissions, you cannot execute it. Okay. Similarly, the octal 2, you see that where the second bit, or the bit representing the 2, is active, and the 1 is not active, so the total sum is 2, and that's write access. Again, write access, these things don't really exist in real life. because everything is presumed you must at least have read access in order to, okay. And then if the second bit and the first bit are both active, it totals 3, and you have write and execute permissions, again, not important. Now we're getting into stuff that actually makes a little bit of sense. Okay, when the third bit representing the number representing 4 is active, that sets read permission and no write permission and no execute permission. So that's actually useful, and we've seen that is that the read write. I wonder if, let me see, I'm going to use the man. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm reading a man page. Full human. No. 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 Okay. Oh well. So now you have read-only permission, and what we'll be able to do is when we're setting the mode of the file, there are 2 ways of setting it. I'm going to teach you the numeric way of setting it, because to me it just goes a little bit quicker. I'll teach you both. Okay. So, all right, so now you have, so that's 4 is read-only permission, 5 is read and execute permission, and 6 is read and write permission, which we've seen, and 7 is full permission. So, what you'll see in your careers as Linux users, you will see jokes or whatever to never set your permissions to 777. Which is full read, write, and execute access for everybody in the world. So if there is a file that has this type of access, people may be able to exploit it. So you never set anything to 777. Okay. Permission for different files to be able to be executed from the server, meaning that scripts can run, that it can run it as an instruction set. So that permission you'll typically see as 755. 755 means that, okay, 755 means that the owner, you or the web server or whoever, has obviously full permission, including the ability to execute it as a program, as a script. But anybody in the group can't write to but they can't edit the file, but they can read the file and execute the file, and the same goes for everyone or anyone else, that they can read the file and execute the file. And you'll see the octal 5, where the 3 bits that are 3 bits, and the middle one, the right bit, is down. So you have you have read, not write, and yes to execute. Okay, so those are common permission. Those are common permission settings. Another one is if the file is just a text file and doesn't need specifically permission. It doesn't need to be executed in any way. So the permissions will be 644, which is it unsets the execute bit in the permissions, so that these permissions are the owner has read write, and the group and everyone have read only permissions. Okay, those are the common ones. Uncommon ones would be 600, which is the owner has read write permissions and nobody else has any permissions. So there are certain security files that will have these permissions. 400 is even more restrictive. That means that only the owner has only read-only permissions. Okay? So now, what I want you to do is change the mode of word.txt to 400. Type it chmod 400 words.txt and then lsal. Sorry, typo, but you guys are smart. Okay, so you have now you see the permissions are read, right? Is that I only have read-only permission to it. Okay, so okay, great. Now type in okay. So now I want you to type in this command. We're not going to learn it because it's more appropriate for actual programming class or server administration class, but I will expose it to you just so you know. Type in nano words.txt. Nano is a text editor that is like, it ships with everything. I have no doubt that it's installed. Okay. You type in nano words.txt, and now at the bottom of nano, right in the middle, what does it say? You see, right, the two lines that have, there you go. Exactly. Okay. Hey, Cyrus, welcome back. Okay. Right. So you've changed words.txt to read-only by owner. Who is the owner? That's right, root. So, but now you, as Neon or your own user, whoever, you have tried to read and write to a file you have no permissions to. So Nano can't open it for reading or writing, so it says permission denied. So because there's no permission for it, so it says permissions denied. There's nothing you can do about it. Hold down Control X and sorry, that was the wrong screen. Control X and you will exit out of it. Okay, so if you know, you basically write protect the file. But you've also made it so that now, what happens if you do more words.txt? Denied. Okay, that file is owned by root. It's in your home directory, no doubt about it, but it is owned by root, or is owned by not you, and you have absolutely no permission to read to it, much less write to it or execute it as a program. Okay, so this is okay, so if we changed it to and then words.txt, don't forget words.txt, sudo chmod 640 words.txt, you'll see now you have read permission. So now if you type in more, it'll, wait, what? Hold on a moment. No, it still says permission denied. Yeah, I see that. Why am I unhappy? Ah! Okay, right. Okay, let's turn this into a teaching moment, gentlemen. Why is it still denied? Anyone? Anyone want to venture a guess? It is still owned by root, but we also changed the permission. Yes, it's still owned, but that's not changing until we change the owner. But we changed the permissions to 640, which is read and write for the owner, read only for, right, it has R dash dash, right. So what does that second R represent? For whom does that second R represent? Yes, for group owners, for the group. And does neon belong to the group root? Right. How do we know this? Here's a bonus command. Type in groups. And groups will list all the groups that you are part of. Okay, so that means that you didn't execute this command. If you execute that command, it will set the read bit for groups. So, given what we know, our newfound knowledge of file permissions in Linux, what would be the correct, there's a fly over here, so I'm going nuts. What would be the correct numeric permissions in order to allow the user neon to be able to read words.txt. Okay, let's take a look at our chart. 7 would give the owner read, write, and execute permissions on the file. Right? That's read, write, and execute permissions for anyone, for the owner who is root, and no. That would give read, write, and permissions to everyone, and that's a bad thing. We want to make it read only. So you're getting closer, but I kind of feel like you're guessing a little bit. But okay, fine. We'll leave it at that. It would technically be 604, which my fat fingers didn't type properly the first time, but yes. So 604 says that the owner has read-write permission. Anybody in the group has no permission, but there's nobody in the root group except for root, who's the owner. And then 4 gives everyone else, i.e. neon, the user, or on my computer, Mark, or whatever your computer, whatever user you're logged in as, counts as everyone else. And everyone else now has read permissions. Now if you type in more words.txt, more, now what do you get? works. Now type in, yeah, I got it. Now type in nanowords.txt. And look at the message in the bottom of Nano now. It says, it's a little bit different. Right. So this is warning, no write permission, which is exactly what we expect. Control X will Control X will exit out of Nano, which okay. Okay, we're not gonna get to all of it, but we are gonna get to this, and I'll switch and I'll move week 8 around. Fine, that's no problem. Okay, computers are good at doing the same automated thing over and over again. They don't care. They have no concept of time insofar as it is a construct of of its numerical progression to a computer. It's never late for anything. It's never it doesn't have anywhere else to be. It is stupid like that. We can take advantage of that. We can say, for instance, every day at 3 o'clock, I want you in the morning. I want you to back up all the files to an off-site server. We can really tell the computer to do whatever we want, and we can set it up so that we can schedule it for whenever we want. Now, this is obviously, we're working with virtual machines, so the usability for this, if your virtual machine's closed, there's no clock running, so the computer's never going to check. So cron stands for, it's spelled wrong, but I think there's an H in it. Cron is it Trixie Cron? Whatever. Chronological. Basically, cron said the cron program always runs in the background. And we're not going to see how to see background programs until next week because of running out of time. But every minute, it checks your computer, the cron server, the cron program that runs in the background, checks to see if the conditions for executing a command have been met. If it finds that a command has been it meets the criteria, the timing criteria of the command, it will. Oh, you guys are Python. I'm going to show you what I was working on before. Okay, well, are you both Python or just? Oh man, I don't remember. Both. Okay, awesome. You're going to love this. Okay. Okay. Yes. So it checks every minute to see whether or not it should run a command. And it does and it can do this in a number of different ways, and we're going to look at all of them. Okay? Actually, I think I only have the one file. Darn it. Okay. So, how do we tell it to? I don't know. Can you see the thing, the slide? Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay. 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 I shut off the webcam for now. I just want you to be able to see it. Okay. Starting from the left, okay, you can set cron to check every or any. There's a small distinction, but we'll get to it as we manipulate it. Okay. So that's any or every minute. Okay, or so if I wanted something to happen at half past, that's minute 30. Quarter after would be 15. If I wanted something to happen at 20 minutes past the hour, you get the point. If I wanted something to happen every 5 minutes, I would indicate it every, and with the word just blew out of my head. Periodically, every 5 minutes. If you wanted the server to check something every 5 minutes, that's how you would indicate it. Okay, so that would be the first one, and now we're separated by a space. The second is which hour. So now, if we want something to happen every minute of every hour, right? It would be another asterisk. Now, if we wanted it to happen only at 10:15 in the morning, it would be 15 minutes of the 10th hour. Okay, if we wanted it at 10 o'clock at night, it would be 15:22. I'm building the cron tab, so I'm doing it one at a time. Okay. If you wanted it to happen every 4 hours, you would indicate whatever minute it is every 4 hours. Okay? Got that. If you only wanted it to happen, if you only wanted it to run a check every let's say you wanted it to run 3 times a month, okay? You want it to run on the 1st, the 15th, and let's say the 28th because, February, okay? You tell it, okay, it will run for 24 hours every minute on the first day of the month, on the first day of the month, the 15th day of the month, and the 28th day of the month. Okay? If you wanted it to run at so this will run every day at midnight. You following me? Can I get a hey? Okay. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so at if I wanted something to run every day at 10:30 in the month of April, I would put 4 in. Okay, let's say okay. So tell me in human terms what that is, and what would you do at that time if you were so inclined. First tell me what it is. Right, it's 5 minutes to midnight. On what date? So what would you do at 5 minutes to midnight on December 24th? Very Merry Christmas. right? Check for Santa.py. Yes. So you're getting this. Okay, awesome. The next one is a little bit quirky. If I wanted to run this every Sunday if I wanted to run this every Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning, what would it look like? Nope, you have to, everything must be indicated. So we want, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, so we want what minute and what hour, which days of the month, which months, and which day of the week. You need 5 characters with spaces in between them. Every is the asterisk. Remember, I said it's any or every. When we're discussing it in English, I can use any or every, but that's what the asterisk indicates. Close, but no, and you're not indicating 1 o'clock in the morning. The hour 1. Remember, the slash is periodical, so we don't want it to run every 5 minutes. Nope. Getting closer though. This is like playing Mastermind. Remember, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, every day of every month, any day of the month, every month, on Sundays. Closer. You can't have a star and a 0. Either you have a star or you have a digit. Then, unless it's periodical, then you have a star slash and then the period of time. Almost. That says every minute of 1 o'clock. As long as the hour is 1, run every minute. I only wanted to run once at 1 o'clock. So which minute do I want it to run? Oh, so close. that's 1 minute after 1 in the morning. It would be at the 0th minute of 1 o'clock of every day, of any day, of every day of the month, every month, as long as it's Sunday. Now, interestingly enough, and it doesn't say it in the thing, Sunday on calendars throughout the world are different. Here in Israel, Sunday is the first day of the week, and in some, Sunday is considered the 7th day of the week. So you can use 0 or 7. You can also use sun, but I don't like, the numbers are important. So you have, 0 or 7 is the correct answer for Sunday, and then you would do home, mark, backups.sh. Okay? And then the last element is the command that needs to be executed. And the command needs the entire, you remember our old friend PWD? It needs that entire path, whatever directory is in it, up until and the file name. Okay, so DigitalOcean is a cloud cloud company. You can operate Linux computers if you're interested in it. Certainly if we're doing server building together, we'll be getting DigitalOcean accounts so that we can maintain servers online. Okay. Anyway, so I teach a class. I teach a class in WordPress, and I teach it on Sunday mornings in a class in Jerusalem. Now, I have a number of students in the class, and when we're all working on the server together, it dies. It can't handle it because it's a very cheap server. So it only has 1 gigabyte of memory and 1 CPU. So last semester, I would shut it down, and I would increase it to much more memory and a second CPU, virtual CPU, and then restart it. I said, okay, this is stupid because I'm doing this and I'm a computer teacher and I should, be able to handle this programmatically, which I did. I finally got the I finally took the time to take care of it. I only taught the second class. I said, all right, I got to sit down, I got to do this, and I did. And I actually put it up on GitHub. Are you familiar with GitHub? I can't see what you're typing, but okay, that sounded like a yes. Yeah, okay. So I have, Okay, so I have put up a script in this repository, and a DO is actually it's not the command do, it's DigitalOcean cron resize, and there was no, I really literally just put it up like an hour before the class, and its initial commit, okay, whatever. Basically, with a configuration file that has the API key, that it's like the password to DigitalOcean, and the ID number of the what they call droplet, with the virtual machine that they have. What I do is I send a command to shut it down, and then resize it, and then turn it back on. Okay, and if you're familiar, yeah, thank you. And then what I used is argparse, which parses arguments. So now I set up a cron job that let's see, the class starts at 9:30 in the morning. So at 9:15, no matter what day of the week it is, it will run. Okay, so now I have that entry in in another server that is also on 24 hours a day. I'm sorry, there's an incomplete command. There's an incomplete command because I did give it the ability to read from the command line. So I send it the expand flag, and it shuts it down, and then expands it to the server size that I pre-indicated in the configuration file, and turns it back on. And then when I send not at 9:15, but at 12:45, 15 minutes after the class ends, I send it the command to stop, shrink it back down to a gigabyte, and turn it back on. Okay. So real world application of cron and in my life. Yeah, it's fun when you can figure out, like, when you have a goal. So much easier to whatchamacallit, to aim for it, So the script didn't take me very long. It doesn't use a whole lot of packages. The packages are pretty straightforward. The requests package, by the way, you should not be using HTTP lib. This request package is like, oh my god, so beautiful. So use requests, and it even has its own JSON parser built into it. It was just like, I still needed the JSON library for sending the command, but whatever. Okay. Okay. Good question. Okay. This is your homework. Follow the instructions, the homework assignment in Canvas. The homework is in 4 parts. Complete all parts. Now, what we didn't get to, and I wasn't sure how ambitious I was being, we did not get to compression, so this will do next week. This will do next, a whole bunch of fun commands. This and this. Okay, so fine. So do the homework, and do the homework. Forget about the one about the archiving. And we'll deal with it next week. Okay. Any questions? No. Okay. Okay, and let's go for extra credit. Let's say you can, if you have any questions about the about the Python, the little scripting, let me know. Okay, you're welcome to check it out and make pull requests if you want. All right, gentlemen, have a great week. Good luck with the homework. Again, congratulations. You did very well, both of you, on the midterm, and we'll see you next week. You're very welcome. Bye.